Struggling Readers Interview by Anthony Cosentino. What the freshman had to say. The freshman says she has a classmate that is very smart with factual knowledge and does well in social studies and or history, but has slow fluency and struggles with paying attention. This student often studies wrong information and is pretty evident in their schoolwork and on tests. The freshman also added that there is another student in her class that has failed multiple times and continues to struggle with reading. The student often sleeps in class and never does homework and is also very rude to the teachers and sometimes even the students. The students are all aware that the student has repeated the grade and should technically be in an older grade, but academically is placed in with these other students. So, that's a count against her, and the kids notice that. So I think that might have an effect on her progress in the class. What the sophomore had to say. The sophomore said there is a foreign exchange student in her class from either Japan or China that doesn't speak English whatsoever. The student needs help reading assignments and often writes in their native language. The interesting thing or neat thing is the student is really good at listening. They will write down exactly what is said in their native language. Now, it might not be exactly what the teacher says, but they write down exactly how they interpret what the teacher says in their language. Now, the sophomore I interviewed also made the comment that she doesn't like to read, but if she has to, she doesn't like to read very long, maybe at most 10 to 20 minutes. She also said books are not that enjoyable to her, but when she does read, she's pretty good at comprehension. So it sounds like she hasn't really found a book maybe that interesting to her, or she just hasn't read as a child growing up. So that can probably be changed by finding a good genre of text. What the junior had to say. The junior I interviewed was my niece. My niece said that reading is so important in high school because you have to read the world around you, like a stop sign and even bills. She said her teachers will not slow down for a slow reader because you're expected to know how to read by the time you're in high school. She said she doesn't notice a lot of her classmates struggling in reading, but she says if they don't understand something, they usually raise their hand and ask for help. So they can kind of mask their struggles by raising their hand and asking for help. That way it's more individualized with the teacher and the student, and no one else knows that the student is struggling. So being able to ask questions is an essential skill no matter what grade you're in, but mostly in high school because a lot of it is more one-on-one. What the senior had to say. The senior I interviewed was my other niece. She said that students who choose not to read or just cannot will struggle through school. She said every class that she takes involves reading. That can be social studies and or history. That can be home ec and even science. They all involve some reading. She said that if her classmates can't read test questions, they will fail. And that's true. If you can't comprehend what a question's asking you, then you're going to put down the wrong answer. So part of that is, do you comprehend and can you read? She also made the comment that reading is one of the only things you need to know to survive when you graduate from high school because you have to comprehend the world around you. That includes emotions, text, signs. Everything involves reading. What research says. Researchers have identified a number of factors important to reading motivation, including self-concept and value of reading, choice, time spent talking about books, and types of text available. Now, according to Johns Hopkins University, there are 4 major causes of underachievement in reading. Now, these are the 4 major ones. There are actually more out there, but these were the 4 common ones. Number 1, role models and prior life experiences. Do you have a positive learning experience with reading? Well, if you don't, most likely you're not going to want to read. Number 2, the acquisition of reading skills. Can you pull out main ideas? Can you find details? Can you summarize what you just read? Those are very important reading skills because they lead to comprehension. Number 3, visual processing. Some people don't get identified for a reading impairment like nearsightedness and farsightedness till later on in life. So if kids have a hard time seeing earlier in life, then they're not going to be able to build on an enjoyment of reading. So we got to keep that in mind. That's why we got to be able to test them at a young age. So being more aware of maybe what your students or even your kids, can they read what's on the page? Can they see what's on the page? And number 4, learning disabilities like dyslexia, where they switch letters around. That can affect their enjoyment of reading and their ability to read. So we have to keep that in mind when we're talking about high school kids and even younger kids, because sometimes older kids can have an undiagnosed disability. So as teachers, we just have to watch out for that. Thank you for listening.